Hello, this is lesson 2, pages 12 and 13, the imperfect tense. So, last lesson, the last video, was the present tense, also known as the personal endings, ost, musis, und. And now you're going to use those again. About five out of the 6 of those personal endings are going to come back. But now you're going to add in something known as the tense sign. And I'll explain that in a bit. But first, let's just look at this. So here are the imperfect tense endings. They are bom, bas, bat, bamus, bat, seats, bunt. Memorize those, memorize those, memorize those. Bom, bas, bat, bamus, bat, seats, bunt. And they translate as, so if you remember we did earlier, amo means I love, amas means you love, amat means he, she, it loves. Here, it's almost exactly the same thing, except we add ing to the verb, and now we have the helping verbs was or were. So amabam would be I was loving, amabas is you were loving, amabat is he, she, it was loving, and then bamus, batsis, you were, we were, they were, or we were, you were, they were, and of course this is plural. So looking back, it's pretty much the same thing. The only difference is this one ends in O, this one ends in M, but you can see how all of these have ba, 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 but they still have the personal endings. Instead of O, it's M, but everything else is the same. St, mus, sis, und, which are still indicate who is doing the verb, right? So, bom, you have ba right there, and then as the personal ending, but everything else has the tense sign, ba, 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 and the same personal ending from lesson 1, st, mus, sis, und. So thus, 5 out of the 6 are the same personal ending. Just so you know, this is the only time where that actually is different. For some reason, they chose this. If I could redesign this book, I would have done lesson 3, switched it with lesson 2, just to kind of keep that same personal endings. But for the rest of the book, I believe you're gonna, well, most of it, one of the exceptions will be when you get to the to be verbs. But but for the rest of them, the personal endings will stay the same. Ost, mus, sis, und. It's just the tense sign will change. So here we have coming up in lesson 3, it's going to be the same personal endings. Ost, mus, sis, und. And then let's just review. But let's see. Yeah, that's it. Well, for those ones up until these lessons. All right, and yeah, I guess that's it. That we'll go with, sorry, on the wrong lesson. So again, the helping verbs for this one are was and were. And what that means is that when we translate this, we either have was or were. So you can see I was, you were, he, she, it was, we were, you were, they were. Earlier in lesson 1, we learned that there were 3 different ways to translate amo. Amo could be translated as I love, I am loving, or I do love. Here, there's only one way to translate it. Amabam will always be translated as I was loving. So that makes it actually a little bit simpler. It's not going to ask you any other version of the tense. If you say imperfect tense, first person singular, it's going to be amabam. Okay. Also recognize again, it's the same setup. Singular here, plural here, first, second, third. Here it says first, second, third. For the rest of the book, they get rid of that. They don't say first, second, third because they assume you can count 1, 2, and 3. But they still have singular, plural. Now, so what does this mean? This means you use this when you're describing something in the past that was interrupted or not finished. So an example in English would be, I was walking down the street when a dinosaur ate me. So I was walking down the street would be the imperfect. When a dinosaur ate me, the dinosaur ate me, that would be the perfect tense, which we're going to learn over future in lesson 8. But so you can see how it's translated in English. I was walking down the street, gets interrupted by the dinosaur eating me. So And as you can see here, it says imperfect in Latin means not finished. The imperfect tense is used to describe an ongoing, repeated, habitual, or interrupted past action. This is going to show up on their homework all the time. Even when it kind of gets reviewed again and again, it'll say it is repeated, habitual, interrupted past action. This even shows up on the test. It is never used to describe a single completed past action. That'd be the perfect tense, which comes up in lesson 8. Here are some examples of the imperfect tense in English. I was calling you when the doorbell rings. See, gets interrupted. I used to call home every week. It's something that was repeated over and over again in the past, right? And then you got all these verbs. I think that's it. Inspecto does mean look at, where they actually, when you translate the verb, it's going to actually have this preposition. So, and of course the stem is, you still use the present stem, the same one you would do, and you do that for all of these. So if I say clamo, which means I shout, or currently it would mean to shout, to get the stem, sorry, clamo, I'm just going to turn that into A. And so how I would do this, actually, let me show you how I would do the whole thing. So if you were doing the homework, and we were doing and it says translate or conjugate, sorry, it's the end of the day, I can't write right now. It says conjugate clamo into the imperfect tense. And you would first off just change that O into an A. And so same thing as you learned in the last lesson, you would just go clama, 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 clama. And those are my stems. And then now I'm going to add the imperfect tense endings. And I'm going to change the color for the fun of it. And we have these endings here. Bomb, boss, bot, bombus, botsies, bot. And they'd be bomb, boss, bot, bamus, botsis, bont. And just like using this as your guide, how amabam would be I was loving, here it's going to be I was shouting. I or you were shouting. He, she, or it was shouting. We were shouting. Y'all were shouting. They were shouting. So as you go through these lessons, you're going to see that, again, it's all following the same structure. And as long as your student gets this structure and sees that it's the same pattern every time, they should be able to succeed in Latin, at least in this book, in the way they set up the verbs. Okay, so I think there's nothing else to really repeat. That's how it is, and that's how they do the imperfect tense. And that's it. All right, so I hope this is helpful, and if you have questions, you can always ask me personally, but there it is. St. Dominic Savio, pray for us.